pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded and televised by the local cable company. We'll begin the meeting with a moment of silence, and obviously we'll keep in our thoughts and prayers those who were affected in the events in Dallas and in St. Paul and in Baton Rouge this past week. Also, I'd like to mention a longtime Whitman resident that passed away last week, Donna McDonough. Donna McDonough, originally from Weymouth, eventually came to Whitman. She worked in the Weymouth school system with special education children, and she worked with our Whitman's sports, soccer and softball. She was, even though my son had played soccer through high school, had a lot of good coaches, she was his first soccer coach, and she was the best coach that he had. She knew how to get the best out of every child, no matter what that child's abilities were, and she treated all of them with respect. And she passed away last week, and I'd like you to keep her family in your thoughts and prayers. Approval of bill and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept correspondence in the read file.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to skip over public forum because the only person here is the chief, the fire chief. New business. Take action to renew the fortune teller's license for Stars Tarot Cards, Amanda Cole, on the premises located at 418 Bedford Street.
So moved.
Second.
Frank, did we receive everything that we need to receive from her?
I believe we have.
We have. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Take action to renew the transient vendor license for Ocean Gold Seafood on the premises located at 1113 Bedford Street.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Act on the recommendation of the Conservation Commission to appoint Joshua Kimball to the position of voting member of the Conservation Commission for a 3-year term through June 30th, 2019. If approved, a vote is required to rescind Joshua's appointment as associate member of the Conservation Commission. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And now I'd like a vote to rescind Joshua's appointment as associate member of the Conservation Commission.
So moved for that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Act on the request of Chief Benton to appoint Michael A. King to the position of Auxiliary Special Police Officer for a 1-year term through June 30th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Act on the disclosure of appearance of conflict of interest as required by General Law, Section 268A 23B3 for Recreation Director Oliver Amato.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? Is there
Frank, do you want to
any discussion?
explain why?
Mr. Amato has a child that is a employee of the Recreation Commission, I believe in the Parks program. This happens periodically with our directors where the opportunity is open to all children. In his disclosure, he notes that the appointment is made by the Recreation Board, not by the director, and that any issues relating to management of personnel that would affect that employee will be handled by the commission and not by the director.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
To discuss solid waste billing for mixed-use properties, Frank?
Yes, I received a copy of a letter directed to the Board of Assessors from the Public Works Department instructing them to, requesting that they issue an abatement for a trash bill at 908 Washington Street. The property there is actually a multi-use property, 908 and 914. At 908 is a realty office, and it's a fairly unassuming residential-looking place. And there's a fence, if you look at the picture in your agenda, that leads to the house, which is at 914. Ironically, if you look at that picture, in the lower right-hand side, you will actually see a recycling bin. This picture was taken back when the town was still using those smaller bins. That recycling bin is there for the benefit of the realty office. The Public Works position is that since the property is residential and commercial, the commercial piece cannot receive trash service, but the residential can. I discussed this with Superintendent Martin because I don't agree with the analysis at all. His feeling is as long as the two bins capacities are met, that they should only be getting one trash bill. My position is if it's a multi-use property where trash and recycling for both business and residents can be disposed of, then it should be treated like any other multi-unit property. So in the past, we have billed each year for 2 trash bills. This year, the owner has once again requested relief from one of the trash bills, and the Board of Public Works has voted to send that request to the assessors. This is really no different than a 2-family house or a single-family house with an in-law, where you have a very limited use unit and then a regular unit. So the regular unit generates trash, the limited use unit generates a small amount of trash. But we do require each of those units to pay $250 in a trash fee. I don't see this as any different. My response to Mr. Martin was, if you really feel that providing a trash bill to the owner for the business side of the property conflicts with our position that we don't provide trash for commercial customers, then any mixed-use property should simply be eliminated from the process. You know, you can't be a little pregnant. Either you're using it or you're not. So my request is for the board to consider this argument and to recommend to the DPW that they take a second look at this, because ultimately it's going to affect a number of properties, and it would certainly diminish our argument that in-laws shouldn't be treated differently. Kathy Keefe, the assessor, was kind enough to pull up a list of multi-use properties. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but we have a car dealer on Route 18 at Bedford Street. It's Martin's Auto and Maureen Foley in a house there. They pay $500. They get 2 trash bins and 2 recycle bins. Goldfarb at 814 Bedford gets 2. The Hobbit Holding Corporation at 985 Temple Street, you may recognize that name as a local developer, has business and 2 residences at that property, and they get 3 trash bills. And I'm just picking a few of these out. David Menard at 31 South Avenue has 3 apartments above his store. They get 3 trash bills. So I don't follow the logic. I really don't. I think it's flawed, and I think in the long run, it's going to affect our ability to effectively price and deliver the trash services we deliver. Even Trio has an apartment upstairs and a restaurant. They get 2 trash bills. So it's just replete with examples that would contradict the position they took on this property. And what I'm asking is the board consider and vote to send back to the DPW request to take another look at that in terms of the practicality. I don't think the Board of Assessors is going to approve the abatement anyway, but
Okay.
I'll
Is
make
there a
that,
motion?
I'll make that
Is there
motion.
a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Brian?
Is there some, written somewhere, someplace, bylaws, whatever, that businesses cannot be on the system?
no, actually, what we did as a town years ago is we entered into a contractual agreement that provided for the collection of waste for residential properties. And we excluded commercial properties from that because we didn't want to be providing dumpsters and huge amounts of trash transfer. But when you get into these mixed-use properties, you really have a hybrid that needs to be looked at differently. And my position is, it should either be all or nothing. If we're going to parse which units get two bells and which units don't, just because someone comes in complaining and says, all I do is throw paper in the recycle bin, is really no different than the argument that we might make if I say, well, we'll go upstairs to my son's unit and we'll throw our trash in his can, so I shouldn't have to buy.
Does he have the ability to opt out?
He does, but they do that, they'd have to get a dumpster. And I don't think there's any room on that property to put a dumpster. It's primarily residential.
The only thing that, reviewing this, to me, it says, I think we need to be treating businesses all the same. We can't pick and choose and cherry pick, I think, how we treat our businesses, so.
Most businesses do not have residential mixed use on their property, and those businesses don't get trash service. They are required to get dumpsters, and they do generate large volumes of trash.
And I understand the
We
predicament.
also, for family homes, do not get trash,
Yeah,
because we treat those as commercial properties.
yeah. I just think it's all about fairness, and whatever we decide, I think, as a town, it should be across the board. We shouldn't be
Well,
making different situations.
the mixed-use properties that do not have a dominantly commercial makeup have the option of, as does anyone in town, of getting private trash
Right.
or participating in our program. But if we're allowing the others to participate,
Frank, if if a business decides to get a dumpster, do they have to prove to the town that they in fact do have one,
yes.
right? With either a bill or whatever? Because we
Back
don't.
up a minute.
Huh?
When a business with a residential unit,
Right. Well, look at that. If he gets a dumpster, I would say, I would want to see the proof that he would have gotten a
You get a
dumpster.
permit from the Board of Health.
Right.
yeah,
And
he would
not-
have the Board of Health has to approve the dumpster company.
Right.
That particular property, there really isn't any place to put a dumpster. That's the reason there isn't a dumpster. That's the reason that the
He probably doesn't
mixed use
generate
is
all
there.
that
He
much
probably
trash
doesn't
anyways.
generate enough trash. He's a realty
Right.
office.
Well,
You know, they're gonna have a considerable amount of paper, but nothing
He's doing all
else.
right at $250 a year.
You know,
Probably cheaper
again,
than
if it has a residential component and it's 3 or less families, even if it's multi-use, it's eligible for trash. But then the decision becomes what's equitable to everybody.
right. And I have to make the assumption that he's probably saying, well, I don't generate that much trash. I pay a trash fee for my house, so why can't I throw my business?
And
into that
that is
thing.
exactly what's being presented. And ironically, when I pulled the picture off Google Earth, he captured the recycle bin in front of his business.
There you go. Right.
So
I'm-
clearly, the business is using
Right.
the recycle portion of our trash. And 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, recycling was free to the town. It isn't
Not
anymore.
anymore, right.
We pay for hauling and we pay for disposal.
Yeah. No, I think it should be treated as a multi-family or an in-law apartment.
So
Two
the-
trash bins.
The motion is for us to ask the DPW commission to
Take
take
another
another
look.
look.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Discuss the assistant town administrator position, Frank.
Thank you. As you know, our assistant town administrator left in April, Greg Enos, to take a job elsewhere, and I am beginning to feel the buildup of not having an assistant town administrator. I have $163,000 in energy contracts that I have to negotiate and implement. I have $55,000 in community compact funding that I have to seek bids on and negotiate and handle. We are approaching a year with 4 contracts up for renegotiation. So I don't think there's any question in my mind that the town is best served by maintaining the position of the assistant town administrator. And I would like the board to consider moving in that direction and perhaps begin a process maybe with a subcommittee of a couple of selectmen and myself to review and update the job description and the approach we want to take to seeking a replacement for Greg.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and distinguished board members, I do want to express that I do have an interest in this position. As you all know, I am a licensed attorney in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Been working for the Social Security Administration for 8 years in the Office of the General Counsel and legal and also as an adjudicator for disability cases. Been on the selectmen for 5 years, so I have a very large interest in the management of the town. I also have the town's best interest at heart. I feel that I should excuse myself during the conversation and discussion and go from there.
Okay, very good.
Thought I lowered that.
We'll let you know when we're finished discussing it. Okay, folks, any response to Frank's plea?
Yeah, I think we need to look at the description of it, of the assistant town administrator. If in fact, I mean, we felt as though we needed one before, and it seems to me that we probably still need one. Town meeting approved the line item, so I guess they're in approval that we need that position. But I would like to look at the description and maybe readjust it from previously and what the good aspects and the bad aspects of the previous contract was. You know, and making some decisions, you know, do we want to hire somebody that will step into your shoes eventually? Or do you want somebody that just wants to be a good town assistant? There's all different aspects of it.
Well, I think clearly we want to hire someone who's capable of functioning in my role when I'm not here. And obviously that person should be someone who is fully capable of administering to the town and has the best interest of the town at heart. My biggest concern right now, as you know, we lost Greg because we were paying him $61,705 and he got a $30,000 raise by leaving us and going up the road a little bit. I have looked at surrounding communities, and I've looked at Abington, I've looked at, some of these are comparable, some are not. Norwell, Kingston, Easton. The common denominator is those persons able to assume my role as chief municipal officer when I'm not available, are compensating people in a much higher level than we are. We are in the process right now of negotiating a contract with the Collins Institute to do a broad-based wage and personnel survey, in part at least because I'm concerned about where we sit in comparison to other communities, but where we sit in terms of what our job descriptions are and what our expectations are for positions. I don't think that this survey is something that would prevent us from making a reasonable analysis here. And I have some ideas, but I think we have to talk about it a little bit and recognize that we're not going to hire somebody at the funding that the line presently has. The line is presently funded for $63,248, which is less than the position even of the department heads who would be under the supervision, or at least the administration, of our office. And bear in mind, those are 4-day work weeks. We expect this person to work 5. So there's a little bit of work to do in terms of that, but what I'm looking for tonight is
A couple of people to volunteer to
commitment for
work
the
with you.
board and a couple of people willing.
A couple of people willing to work with you and present at a subsequent meeting a job description, maybe a schedule of when we might be doing a search, and including the salary range.
Correct.
Do we have any volunteers?
Yeah, I'll do it, of course.
All right, I'll volunteer as well. So the,
Do we have to go to town meeting though, for the money? If you need to.
It all depends on where we end up. We have to make a decision based on what's available. And again, I emphasize that if we're going to hire somebody with reasonable skills and education and training, we're going to have to pay more than we're paying. Depending on our hiring cycle, we may have sufficient funds to hire for this contract period.
Right.
Wehowever,
because we've saved
It would have
some
to
money
be-
since Greg is gone anyway.
we would have to recognize that the appropriation itself would require an adjustment at
Yeah.
town meeting.
So you're a volunteer
Absolutely.
to work through this?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll volunteer as well, Frank. And what do you think is a reasonable time period by which the 3 of us could come up with a job description, salary range,
Well,
schedule?
I can distribute information this week, or at least next week,
Mhm.
to both of you, to the whole board, but primarily for you
Ah,
to
forget
look
them.
at.
They said they didn't want to bother.
I just
with
think the longer it takes, the more money we build up in that line item.
And I would like to come back in August with at least an approach
All right, that sounds good.
we've agreed on.
As long as the meeting in August isn't in the first week of August, that'd be great.
Or the
Right.
second week of
And
August.
my guess
Can't be the
is
third week.
we're probably looking at the end of September, beginning
There's
of
a
October
town meeting
before we
downstairs,
actually
Route 18,
No.
will employ someone.
in the auditorium at 6 o'clock.
Wait, time out. What?
On August 16th,
Yeah.
there is going to be a Route 18 and 14 and Route 18 and 27
Oh,
Oh,
open
yeah.
meeting for residents at the Lower Town Hall.
yay. Okay.
That's the 16th, right, Frank?
It is the 16th.
Yeah, unless they reschedule it again.
All right. So
The week of
23rd?
So we
the
could-
8th, I'm on
we-
vacation.
we could do the 23rd. How's the 23rd for the, we have to set the August meeting schedule anyway. How about setting it for the 23rd?
Works for me.
Works for me.
The only problem is I won't be available that day.
All right?
Do you want to meet on a Wednesday?
No. How about the, no, come on.
Absolutely.
30th?
How about the 30th?
30th works for me.
30th work for everybody else?
Yeah.
Well, let me,
Good.
I
That gives
won't
us-
be of it. No, I'm only kidding. Just
What
kidding.
about,
All right. So the August meeting will be on the 30th. That's fine. That's good. We don't, it's summertime.
give us time to build up something to talk about.
Yeah. All right.
Okay?
So we've taken care of that. We've taken care of the August meeting schedule. Excellent. Old business traffic study of Washington Street.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
You might want to ask her to come back.
Yes, we should ask her to come back.
You want me to go?
That'd be nice.
Lisa, we got good news and bad news.
Good news, you're going to have to hang in the state for a while.
Thank you, Brian. I'm thinking.
I
And I thought she might have gone home.
lost my head. I forgot. Sorry, Lisa, you have to come back. Our next meeting in August is, our meeting in August is going to be on the 30th. We actually discussed that without you here. Because what we've done is we have set up a subcommittee comprised of Scott and myself and Frank to come up with a job description, salary range, and a schedule of when we might go through the job search. And we're going to report back to this committee at our next meeting, and we set that meeting for the 30th.
Okay.
And now you have to be agreeable. It's an investment.
Yes.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the traffic study of Washington Street. Frank?
Funny you should mention that. You all have in front of you a binder with the results of a traffic study that I requested from the Old Colony Planning Council. And this goes back to last year when we started experiencing heavy traffic on Washington Street. And by heavy traffic, I'm referring to both volume and weight. We had large tractor trailers carrying considerable loads of soil from the Abington School Project down somewhere in East Bridgewater. But we're also finding traffic coming in the other way, and it reached a point where there were probably in excess, certainly in excess of 100 trucks, perhaps in excess of 150 a day. I approached the town manager in Abington and asked him to speak with the project manager and encourage those folks to use Route 18 for that traffic. And my concern is twofold. One, it's a residential area, and two, we just spent money repaving the whole street. And traffic like that will destroy it in no time because those roads aren't built to that load. We also began receiving complaints back in, I want to say December, Scott. I asked the police to start looking at traffic patterns and see if we had speeding, and they of course did that. The combination of those things led to a reduction in heavy traffic, but I received the study about a month and a half ago. I spoke with Pamela Kane, the person who was most aggressive in the complaint area, several weeks ago, and again, I think 2 weeks ago, regarding what appears to be a pickup in the volume of traffic. I explained to her that we had this information and there's a process we have to follow. The day I received this survey, I asked the town of Abington to review it and to consider their position on this, because in order to do the reduction in weight, we have to have concurrence with Abington because it would go to the Abington intersection of Route 18. So there's a section of Abington that would also be involved. I haven't heard from them yet, but I heard again from Ms. Kane, it was either last week or the week before. And at that point, I suggested that since this was a traffic and what she presented to be a safety issue, I suggested she contact the police department and let them know that she's got these concerns and is seeing speeding trucks and questionable practices, which I understand she did do. But that brings us to where we are tonight. The survey completed by Old Colony Planning Council was done in accordance with Department of Transportation rules that relate to setting weight limits on roads. The summary I'm going to read is very short. It says, please find attached the traffic count data collected from Washington Street during the week of May 16th to 20th. The table below summarizes the recorded traffic data. As you can see in the table, the percentage of heavy vehicle traffic north of Temple Street to the Abington border is quite high. The heavy vehicle percentage south of Temple Street is a bit below the minimum 5% threshold that the state generally uses before considering the establishment of a heavy commercial vehicle exclusion zone. However, in the big picture, it's clear the trucks are using Washington Street as a travel route, and the logical start and end points for a potential heavy commercial vehicle exclusion zone would be from Route 18 in Abington to Route 14 in Whitman. The traffic counts, I'm not going to bore everybody with the counts, but the average weekly volume, just the summaries, Washington Street north of Auburn, 11,096 vehicles, average speed 28 miles per hour, with the 85th percentile at 39. That's important to know because the 85th percentile is what they generally use to set the speed limit. And 4.3% of those were heavy vehicles. From Washington Street north of Route 27, there were 9,000 vehicles. 85th percentile was 31 miles per hour, and the percentage of heavy vehicles is 16.2%. From Washington Street at the Abington Town Line, there were 8,488 vehicles, average speed 43 miles per hour, which supports the issue of vehicles picking up speed after they clear the stop sign at Park Ave. And 11.7% of those are heavy vehicles. Now, the numbers, without knowing what the high numbers were, the averages would indicate that they may be traveling a little fast, but not extraordinarily. But that doesn't speak for those occasional ones that are doing 45 or 50 miles an hour. And on that road, that's a bit of a problem. If the board is amenable to this, I would like to move forward with a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen to establish a commercial vehicle exclusion zone from Route 18, from Washington Street, from Auburn to Route 18.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Or a second?
Now, this would not prevent large and heavy vehicles from making commercial supply deliveries. It would simply establish an elimination of using that as a traffic corridor. Route 18 is designed for that kind of traffic. Washington Street is not. In fact, in the rules governing the heavy vehicle exception, numbered streets cannot be granted an exception. So we could not do this, for example, on Route 58 or Route 14 because the state specifically exclude numbered roads
Right.
from that protection. So everything that fits for asking that exists in this pattern. I don't know if the chief has anything he wants to add, but I think it's appropriate to move forward with this.
Okay.
I haven't seen the survey, but I have spoken to Frank about this quite a bit, and I did speak to Mrs. Kane today, who was quite upset. It's a quality of life issue, and I understand that. And she basically said to me, if I had known this was, she said, the trucks go by and they're supposed to be covered, but debris still fly and all. She was quite upset. I felt bad for her. Also though too, until you restrict it, we can go up and we do patrol it. I sent out an email to the force on December 15th, and everybody has been doing traffic enforcement. Of course, we can't be everywhere, so she had said to me, sometimes when they come up, it's at night, and that's not when the trucks are going by, but there's still speed is going by.
Right.
And I explained to her, I go, it's kind of a twofold process. We're not just, I know where she's coming from. Her focus is the trucks, but, ours is all public safety, I explained to her. But I understand where she's coming from, and she's pretty frustrated. And I've had a few other residents come in and talk about J-braking and a few other things that some of these trucks are doing, that, literally, one guy told me, he goes, I'm in my kitchen having coffee, and they hit this J-brake. He was a truck driver. He explained it. He kind of gave me an education on it. But he said, boom. Yeah, he said it was like he says, I'm telling you, my whole house shook. So, I think it's a good move. I think, to restrict, it's a start. Certainly, I think there'll be a vast improvement for those residents in that area.
How soon, after we vote, how soon can that actually become effective? Frank?
When I spoke to the folks down in Taunton, it goes through a process and a review. It would probably take 4 to 8 weeks from the time the documentation is submitted to be reviewed and authorized, and then we would post signs with
All
the
right,
vehicle
so
weight
it's
exclusion.
still a long way away.
Yeah, and
In the meantime, is there anything we can do on our own to mitigate the circumstances?
well, I was playing this in my mind
I'm assuming
yesterday,
that we're going to vote yes on that. So.
then wondering if maybe we should put up cautionary signs. I'm not sure what they would be. I don't know, Scott, have you got any thoughts
Yeah,
on that?
I did discuss that with Mrs. Kane today, too. She said, that intersection up there, what about dangerous intersection signs? Where Beulah, Walnut, Washington Terrace, if you came around the other side of Washington Street, it is a dangerous, it's quite sometimes depending on the flow of traffic to negotiate in there. You have to, it can be dangerous. She was looking for anything that could slow down traffic, that would slow down traffic. So, I did say that I would, I was gonna talk to Frank and talk to Bruce Martin about that and see if there's anything that, putting signs, if there is something, even a curve, like she said, there's a curve there, people don't know there's a curve, you can put danger curve.
What about changing the speed limit?
We can't do that,
Why?
because we don't have the authority to set speed limits.
Who does?
The Department of Transportation. And the speed limit, based on this study, will be set somewhere between 30 and 40 miles an hour. The problem with the 85th percentile is that that's the number they use to set
Yeah.
a speed limit. I know, it's crazy, but
No, when I was studying for my driver's license many years ago,
Speeds at all times.
I can remember
Fundamental speed.
something I had to memorize.
fundamental speed limit.
Right.
No, there was a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit for thickly settled
Thickly
districts.
settled. But I don't think
Well,
that
I
think
qualifies
that's
for that,
30
does
now.
it?
There's 30 non-posted, thickly settled,
Yeah.
or posted, like Rainer Ave. There are, so the speed limit drops to, I think it's 20 down near the railroad tracks.
25, I think. Is it
20 or 25, it drops.
Yeah.
So there is, I don't know who, I can't tell you who put that there, but
Yeah,
I
way
know
back
it's
then.
25.
And what
Well, they
happened to
put the
that?
T
What
in.
happened to that rule about the thickly settled
Probably when
district?
they put the T in.
And in thickly settled, Washington Street clearly fits the description of a thickly settled
Maybe
district.
that's just.
That speed limit was 25 long before the T ever came there. It dropped.
The last two speed limit studies I was involved in
Yeah.
worked against us because the
Right.
speeds went up.
Careful what you ask for.
So I would not suggest that, I know there is at least one area in town where the posted speed limit doesn't match the authorized speed limit. And I don't know how those signs went up, but there is.
Where's that?
I'd rather not say.
Well,
Would rather not
and I
say.
will tell you, as a side, so
On Essex Street. The legitimate
On
speed limit
Essex
is,
Street.
the posted speed limit is 30.
Yeah.
The authorized speed limit by the Department of Transportation is 40. So if you drive with your GPS and you look
Yeah.
down at the little speed limit, you're
Yeah.
gonna see a 40 pop up there.
Really?
Yep.
I will tell you that part of Mrs. Kane's frustration today was her husband went out to ask, kind of wave the trucks to slow down. And a couple of the truck drivers
You got a half.
told her
victory sign.
husband that he was number one in not such a friendly way. So I think that kind of put her over the edge. I think some of it was just the arrogance of, here's a quality of life issue. Hey, I'm trying to help this. I'm really concerned about this. And they basically just told them to go pound sand. We'll do what we want. So I do think this would be a good move for the board to say, hey, you know what? No, we'll tell you when to pound sand.
I do,
Kinda.
I have a comment, I guess. Maybe until twofold this. Actually, is Abington, could they put a kibosh on any of this from their direction?
They could, but there'd be no reason for them to.
The other thing is, if this takes a couple of months to do, I know you have a lot on your plate, especially since recent events. And the last thing is probably watching truckers go. But maybe for the 2 months, if we increased our presence, maybe it would curtail some of that until we get the...
I sent out an email today asking for that, and I CC'd Frank on that.
Scott and I have not had an opportunity to talk about this yet either, so.
No.
If I can, Carl?
Yes, Daniel?
Okay, first of all, a few years ago, when the truck route used to go through Tri-Town and go on 27 by the high school and take a left on 27
Oh, yeah.
South Ave and go through the center of town, they changed that truck route because of the same situation, and it was supposed to be when they come to 14, instead of going straight through the center of town, they take a left on 14 down to Washington, down to Route 18. They never posted a sign there, right, years ago. And I don't know why. But that being said, I have a meeting this Thursday, a JTC meeting this Thursday. And I will ask that question. If the fact that the Board of Selectmen voted to eliminate certain heavy-duty commercial vehicles through the center of town, and how long it's going to take the state to give us a blessing so we can order the signs and post them. I'll ask that Thursday, and I'll get back to you, Frank.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Thanks, Chief. I think we ought to lower the speed limit to 20 miles an hour.
Well,
This is our town.
Speed
Well,
bumps.
we
Speed
can
bumps.
seek a fundamental speed limit
the
that's
center of
lower,
town,
but
I agree.
it's
No,
pretty
don't think
involved.
about it.
Boston just did 20 miles.
Well, yeah, Boston, that's what made me think of it, because Boston is
Well,
Boston.
Boston makes its own rules. They don't go to the state. Pretty interesting, actually.
Frank, if you send JTC a state a letter, can you just either email it to me so I can make a copy of
Sure.
it, and I'll bring it with me Thursday?
I'll get it done tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, around the board, Frank, anything else?
Yes, I just want to mention that the cable access group, the people that are broadcasting this meeting right now, have had some pretty significant changes over the last few years. Most recently, Steve Roy, who's run the program for us and for years ran it for Continental and Comcast, passed away. But there is a board governing cable access, and it has 4 members from each town, or at least it's structured to have 4 members from each town. And perhaps I'm a little remiss in not staying more on top of this, but I recently found out we only have 1 member from Whitman and 3 from Hanson. So
It's an 8-member board?
it's an 8-member
And
board.
so there's 3 vacancies?
There's 3 vacancies, which is remarkable when you consider all these years, nobody's come to us with any indication of that. Maybe it's a let sleeping dogs lie concept, I don't know. But we need representation on that board. The board of directors for cable access are the governing board for that service. We have no input. We may have influence, but we have no input in their management. They're an independent board, completely separate from the town. And it's important that both towns be appropriately represented in that grouping. And it's important that we have participation to make cable access whatever it should be. And they need the help. So if there are people out in listening land who have an interest
It's
in
cable access we're talking about, so you probably should say viewing land.
viewing land, thank you. I don't know, yeah. In viewing and hearing land that have an interest in participating in this process, we need people with business skills or just general interest skills that would like to serve on a public access directors board for the towns of Whitman and Hanson. From Whitman, we need 3,
How often do they meet?
Once a month, I think.
if that much. I mean, they'll probably be meeting more now because one of the things they're trying to come up with is what to do for a director to replace Steve. And we really have no representation at that meeting right now.
So if someone's interested in filling those roles, they should contact the Selectmen's office?
Yes, and we'll forward that information to the Cable Access Board.
Who
If you-
makes the appointments?
Cable Access Board.
We don't.
So in the case
Have any of them.
of, no, we have not, we are arm's length. In the case of Whitman, the Whitman representative will be appointing the other 3. Because part of the bylaws indicate that the members of each town appoint their successive town person.
Did we ever have 4 people on the
Yeah.
board?
Yes,
We did,
yes.
okay.
I mean, that's been in existence for, what, 10 years?
So that, the one person that's from Whitman on the board
Can appoint
can appoint 3 other people,
3 members at once, or he can appoint 1, and then 2 of them can appoint 1, and then 3 of them can appoint 1.
but hasn't appointed anybody for the last number of years.
I don't know how long it's been vacant. I asked for a list
Okay,
at the beginning of the year, in January. I never got it. And things being what they are, my focus was in other areas.
okay.
I was
Okay,
wondering if
thanks.
you could do one favor, is explain quickly to the folks how they get their funds, because there's been some people thinking otherwise.
Well, as you know, the cable license that we grant to Comcast has a provision for funding cable access so that local cable can produce information and shows. There is currently a 4.5% assessment or tax, if you will, on the cable bill that represents the money that goes to cable access. In the past, when we first created the system, the money came to us and we forwarded it to the cable access company. When they were fully vested with Whitman and Hanson, we decided it was time to just have it go direct rather than pass through. The town made a conscious decision not to be part of cable access management for a lot of reasons. Independence, liability, all of those things come into play. So it's really owned by the people who pay their cable bills. 4.5% of whatever we pay on that cable bill is for community access. We should be able to get something for that.
Thanks, Frank. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Scott? Lisa?
Yes, I do. As I mentioned earlier, on August 16th, around 6 o'clock at night, we'll be having that meeting at our town hall where our town meeting is for the Route 1814 and Route 1827 traffic study and the redo of those 2 intersections that I said that our both chief police and the fire chief had input on what needed to be done, as well as Frank, myself, and Mass Department of Transportation. We all sat around and threw in some ideas of what would be better use for those intersections as far as controlling traffic and making them safer. That being said, we're having a meeting for the public at our town hall on August 16th at 6 o'clock. If you have concerns for those intersections or you live by them, if you're a business and you're on that 4-way intersection, you want some input on what's going on, please join us. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Brian?
Yeah, just while we were discussing the solid waste issue, I've noticed there have been quite a few complaints about trash not getting picked up for various reasons, or the recycling not getting picked up, and I don't know if it was clearly put out to the public that if your recycle truck comes first, takes your recycling, and then you take your recycling bin in, the trash truck will not take your trash.
Oh, that's the way it was before.
Right.
It's
Right.
always been that way.
But under this new system, I think there's been a lot of folks who are confused about it. So I just wanted to remind folks that leave both barrels out until the day is done. And then you won't have to call the DPW and complain that your trash or your recycling didn't get picked up. That's it.
Can I go a little bit on that? And what I've noticed in the neighborhood is that people put out both barrels, but they don't follow directions and put them out in the direction that they need to be for the truck to pick them up. A lot of times they put them out sideways, side by side. It's written right on there, this side forward, 3 feet apart. I mean, people need to understand that, because the driver is not gonna get out, try and change that barrel around to pick it up. He's just gonna go right by it. So look at the top of the lid, it tells you which side to the street, and so that the company can pick up your trash.
Thank you for that reminder.
That's trash talk for today.
I know. Well, hey, I'm tired of turning barrels around my neighborhood.
Do you turn barrels
Yes,
down
I
for
do.
other people?
He's-
Oh,
yeah.
What a good guy.
He's the trash guru.
If I see my neighbors and they're the wrong way, I turn them straight and I tell them, say
Good for
something to
you.
them. Or if they, like this, I'll move them apart. I'll tell them no.
Puts a letter in their door.
I don't put a letter in the door. I see them on the street, I say, by the way,
Good for you.
follow directions.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hear the complaints.
While you're dragging this out,
We're not dragging it out.
I'll throw out one other point.
Oh, Jesus. Dan, see what
Just
you're saying?
for informational purposes.
He started it.
I'm actually going to bring it back at the next meeting, but I want to mention it because of the complaints we've received. The trash will only pick up what's in the barrel.
Right.
They won't pick up anything aside from it. We have had several complaints from people that they cannot get by with one trash barrel. Bruce and I have been discussing options, which include consideration of a bag system for additional pickup that Waste Management would foot and cover. It would involve fees for bags. We're looking at the possibility of additional recycling bins for those people that can't manage because they have too much of both, and it would encourage them to do more recycling. But all of these solutions will come at a cost. So we're talking about it. We're not ready to move forward with anything on that, and probably won't be until September or October.
About the same time that trucks start going down Washington Street.
There'll be more room to pick up the bins.
Motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're out of here.
You guys to drop it again?